So let's talk about what emotional regulation actually is. So something straight off the top. As leaders, business owners, therapists, high performers, a lot of us believe that we are emotionally regulated. Surprise, surprise, we're actually not. We tend to be very controlled, very contained, disciplined, and pretty productive under pressure. But that's different than actually being self-regulated and emotionally regulated. And I thought through most of my career, most of my experience with being a therapist and being a leader, running businesses, starting things, I thought I was really emotionally regulated. Surprise, surprise, it turned out I was actually just really emotionally shut down and suppressed. And so I was very productive, I was super high capacity, but that didn't mean that I was emotionally regulated. And so part of this is about me sharing with you some of my own experiences with learning how to become emotionally regulated so that you actually can also take this and learn for yourself so you can become a more emotionally regulated leader, therapist, business owner, individual in real life. So if we have built our careers on being like the steady one, the one that has it all together, we are the reliable one, people know that they can call us and we'll show up and we'll get it done, there's a pretty good chance that we're calling regulation, but it's actually suppression. It's this idea that we have all of these emotions, but they're all pushed down inside, but our executive functioning, the front part of our brain, is really, really online. And that works really, really well until it doesn't. It stops working. And so we're going to break down what emotional regulation actually is, not the Instagram version, not the just breathe and everything will be fine version, not the HR version, the real version. I talk about emotional regulation with people every single day. It is a topic that comes up in my business coaching. It is a topic that comes up in my sessions with my clients. And what I consistently see over and over and over again in their lives, but also in mine, is that the more responsibility, the more likely somebody is to confuse emotional shutdown and not feeling things and being able to just do it all and handle it all with being emotionally strong. I have found that they tend to pride themselves on not reacting, on pushing through, on keeping everything together, but internally, they're running really hot. They are feeling like they're cracking inside. This internal pressure just feels like it might be like seeping out in these cracks, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we have to like hold it all together again. But these cracks and these fissures, it comes out in our tone, in our decision making, in our relationships, and in our body. I found that if we don't really understand regulation properly, we tend to build our leadership, our foundation, our teams on this like unstable ground of what we think it is, but what is actually like emotional numbness and shutdown. So what emotional regulation is not? Let's like clear up these misconceptions that might be up there. Emotional regulation isn't being calm all the time. It's not never getting angry or not feeling anxious or avoiding difficult conversations or pretending that you're not affected and that you're totally okay. It's not this like emotional numbness where like I'm fine and I don't feel anything and everything is good. That's not emotional regulation. It's not detachment. It's not this like, well, I don't care. People can do whatever they want to do. It's not that at all. It's not this like over intellectualizing and strategizing and being in our heads all the time so you don't have to feel anything. That is not emotional regulation. If you feel like you're like white knuckling and just like holding on your way through all the stress while telling yourself like, nope, it's fine. I'll get a good night's sleep. I'll be fine tomorrow. I can figure this out. It's this last project. The deadline's coming. Once I push through, I'll be good. That's not regulation. Like that's not even close to regulation. That's containment and like really, really restricting under pressure. But what happens is the containment actually has a breaking point. We can't live there forever. It's just a matter of time until that volcano explodes. I use this idea all the time with clients where If we picture ourselves as a volcano and we keep stuffing things into this volcano, eventually what's going to happen is the volcano is going to get so full it's going to explode. And when it explodes, you can't predict where the lava is going to go. It just explodes and goes all over. And so what we have to do is we have to actually put in these pressure release valves into these volcanoes to help release some of that pressure in a controlled way so the volcano doesn't explode. And that's often what shows up and how this emotional dysregulation looks in leaders. So what is emotional regulation actually? Emotional regulation is the ability to experience emotion without it hijacking you. It means that your nervous system can be activated. You can feel triggered. You can feel emotions, but they're not taking over your ability to make decisions. Your feelings can show up without dictating your behavior. I often use this idea of emotions should be indicators, not dictators. They should be turning signals. They shouldn't be the brake. And regulation is about being flexible. It's about being able to feel your emotions. You can feel anger and you can still choose your response. You don't have to react. You can feel anxiety and you can still think clearly without your brain spinning out of control. You can feel disappointed and not spiral into this self-loathing, self-attack, I'm not good enough space. It isn't about reducing the emotion and getting rid of it and noticing and then having it shut down. It's about increasing your range, increasing what we call your window of tolerance to be able to manage and handle your emotions without them actually hijacking you. What we find is that there's this window of tolerance, and it's for many people, it's just pretty small. And your ability to tolerate your emotions stays within this window. If all of a sudden your emotions go outside of this window, then what happens is we overreact or we shut down. And so what we're trying to do with emotional regulation is we're actually trying to widen that window so we can tolerate these emotions in a different way. So what does the nervous system do and how does it play into regulation? Your nervous system essentially is your body's command center. Okay, it's like the main hub. It's always scanning for safety and threat. It regulates your heart rate, it regulates your breathing, your muscles, your digestion, all of these pieces in your system. So when something stressful happens, our nervous system all of a sudden goes ding, hello, we're activated and we're paying attention and we're seeing what's out there, seeing where there's threat. Is there threat? What's going on? It's really when our brain moves towards this threat detection and threat response. Now, that doesn't mean that it's weakness to be scanning for threat. It's really just the way that we are biologically wired as humans to help keep us alive. At the end of the day, biologically, we are wired to die or survive. There's no thriving in there biologically at its core. And so our nervous system really helps us go between die or survive. That's all there is to it. And so when we're emotionally regulated, it means that our system can move into this space of being activated and into this threat response, and we can pause and we can come back out of it. So we're not just constantly scanning for threats and now in this hyper-focused narrow tunnel space. It means that we actually can respond instead of reacting. If we stay stuck in a fight mode, we become reactive. If we shut down into a freeze mode, we tend to disengage. If we switch between this fight mode and this freeze mode, oftentimes what we see is burnout. And so, it's worthwhile asking yourself, when you get activated, are you going into this fight space where you become reactive? Are you going into a freeze space where you disengage? Or are you flipping back and forth? And ultimately, actually, your system is getting burned out with this idea of, constantly scanning for threats and then crashing. Regulation is the capacity to return to our baseline after we've scanned for threat, realize we're okay, we come back to our baseline and we're calm. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never feeling activated or never feeling triggered. It's just about our ability to be able to actually come back to our baseline. the more we practice it, the easier it is to come back to baseline. The faster our bounce back time really is. So when I think about what this has looked like in my own life as I have become a boss, a CEO, an entrepreneur, a leader, running a team, managing lots of people, this emotional regulation has become even more important, I have found. And it's become more important because the biggest learning curve I've ever had in my life is starting this business and having it grow, and now being responsible for all these people. And now not only am I just responsible for myself, I'm responsible for them. And now all of my own internal buttons are being pushed. And so when I all of a sudden get activated, it's really easy for me to become dysregulated. And when I become dysregulated, then that directly impacts my team. It directly impacts the people that I work with. And so it matters so much for leaders and for managers and for people who are interacting with others in this type of capacity, because it directly impacts our teams in really, really significant ways. And so as leaders, we've often learned to contain. We've learned to, check our face, try to we call it regulation, but actually suppress our own emotional responses, even though inside it might be like firecrackers going off. So dysregulation in leadership doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it can, but oftentimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it looks like micromanaging or avoiding conflict, just doing it ourselves and overworking. Sometimes it looks like withdrawing from our teams. Oftentimes, it starts to come out at home, where we become snappy, irritated with our family, with our kids, with our partners, and we just become almost like this walking thundercloud. I often find that when I'm in this space as a leader, my inclination is to make a decision out of urgency and just to be done and get it off my plate, and so I don't have to think about it, versus pausing and actually making a decision from a strategic mindset and a regulated space. What I found is that if your nervous system is running you, your leadership becomes really reactive instead of intentional. And I think most of us as leaders want to be really intentional leaders. And when I look at it, I go, regulated leaders create psychological safety, and dysregulated leaders create unpredictability. And our teams feel those things absolutely immediately. And so when I talk with people about what being regulated actually means and what it looks like, here are some green flags. I like to use red flags, yellow flags, green flags. Here are some green flags to know if you are regulated. So some things might be being able to tolerate discomfort without immediately trying to fix it or run away or numb it or avoid. It could be something like you don't need everybody else to change and be okay for you to be able to settle internally for yourself. You can pause before responding. Something comes up, and instead of being reactive, you can actually take a pause and you can go, okay, what's happening here? Should I react? Can I respond? And how can I actually respond in a really positive way that is helpful for this other individual and myself? You find that you recover faster from stress than maybe you used to. Your bounce back time is faster. You can name what you're feeling without it hijacking you and totally consuming you. What we find over and over and over again is that when we become increasingly regulated, it increases our ability to respond. And when we increase our ability to respond, that's where intentional, healthy leadership lives. And that is the power of the pause. What I know for myself when I look at kind of my own leadership development is that I have always been a high performer. I've always been a high capacity individual, juggling multiple balls all the time. And I often have felt like my ability to keep going and my intensity and my self-discipline is the reason for my success. And it is to a point. And sometimes for others, it is, or it was, at least in the early days. But it doesn't mean that it's going to create this success long term. When we have this unmanaged intensity and this go, 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 like the Energizer Bunny, what happens is it actually starts to decrease that window and it starts to actually narrow our capacity because it depletes us. We become more sharp. We become brittle because we just, our system is not built to just keep going and going and going. It needs rest, really, at the end of the day. And this is where, often people run into burnout. And I can tell you, I hit that wall last summer, and it was I hit the wall at 1,000 miles an hour, and I was toast. And couldn't think clearly, couldn't do anything, couldn't really function, was just completely debilitated because I had been going and going and going and going and going for so long that all of a sudden it just resulted in this burnout because I hadn't built in the regulation tools long term and the healthy parameters and boundaries to be able to actually manage it. And so when we start to become regulated, what I've noticed is that it doesn't reduce our edge, but it does start to refine it. It starts to give us clarity around what those edges look like and when we need to bring in some support. It allows us to access this drive and this motivation and this desire and this creativity and these things that really push us forward, but it's not actually being driven by fear. It's being driven more by fun and creativity and almost this idea of something greater, not this perpetual fear that just seems to sit in your stomach. It tends to be a completely different operating system in how we're engaging in life. And so one of the things that happens all the time in the sessions that I do with clients and with other leaders and business owners is we talk through how they can start to get towards the goals that they have. And without fail, everybody always wants a magic potion. They want this one thing that's going to make it work. They can do the one thing and then everything is good and they don't really need to work at it. Would that not be ideal? If I had one, it would, life would be so easy. However, emotional regulation and regulation in general is learned and trained over time. There is no magic potion to just become regulated. It takes consistency and practice over and over and over and over and over to build it. And some of the ways that you can build it is becoming more aware of your activation patterns. So what triggers you and why? What's going on? What are these emotional buttons or these wounds or these belief systems that get activated in these moments? Where do they come from? Breathing and body-based resets. So, moving your body and really practicing breathing and being present as you breathe. Those are some things that can help increase your awareness and start to regulate your nervous system. Working through and developing some really good stress management tools and working through and processing any unresolved trauma is really important because those are things that actually narrow that window and narrow that capacity. Practicing the pause before reacting. This one I have had to work at so hard and still have to work at, but it is key over and over and over again. Right? When we pause, we get to choose what we're going to do. Are we going to react or are we going to respond? All of these things start to help build our resilience and help to build our regulation. You can't just think your way into being regulated. You have to practice your way into being regulated. And if there's unresolved trauma in your system, your regulation ceiling is always going to be lower than your ambition. That's just how the nervous system works to protect you and to keep you safe. So, as we kind of finish up, if you have been equating regulation with suppression, I want you to pause and revisit that idea. Just sit with it. See how it feels now for you as you kind of think about that. Emotional regulation isn't about feeling less. It's about being able to feel fully without it hijacking you, without losing your ability to make decisions and to be strategic and to respond in these moments. If you can master that, everything in leadership gets clearer. It gets cleaner. And so I want you to just think about that. Pay attention to it. When you get activated, don't judge it. Just measure how quickly you can return back to your baseline. What's your bounce back time? That, at the end of the day, is your real performance metric.